lad with the skating? He's still doing the skating, or did he tell you he doesn't like doing it?
Well, no, Christian's playing hockey. Yeah. He'll.
Still hockey in it?
Oh, very much so. Yep. Year in, year out, year round. Yep.
You still have the tendency to see my former compadres in Saratoga?
Um,
Fire dudes?
I see Matt a lot.
Matt Durway?
Matt skates with us on Sunday night.
He actually mentioned your name to me. Saw him at the event back when they did that dedication for Supervisor Wood.
Yeah.
Matt was there. He was talking. He actually mentioned your name.
Yeah, he's still going. Still going.
Asked me if I knew you. I said, not really.
Yeah.
Matt's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
They did call him Doorway in the firehouse.
Yeah.
Doorway.
I've heard that.
They're cool individuals up there, John.
How's your kids there, Steve?
Sending out a quick message on that right now.
Your option 5 was a pretty good idea.
What's option 5?
Build a new building for us, flip this, and knock down that.
Oh, well, whatever.
I mean, that was not a bad option.
I'm not going to be around when it happens.
Well,
so
I probably won't either, but it was
You'll
like,
be around longer than I am.
I read that, it's like, that makes sense. Just building one building, change the door handles here, and this is the court, and knock that. You don't have
I
to
don't
move
know.
them. You don't have to move the park.
Al, it's your water to carry, friend, because I won't be here.
But anyhow, I'm giving you credit. It was a good idea.
Well, opinions vary, I'm
Your
sure.
other emails lately have been great too. Around late.
Mr. Craig?
Mariah, what do you think so far?
That's what we have so far, John.
If they were in the wrong spot. That'd be the only reason why we should touch them. Mariah. Oh, supervisor.
I don't think there's any.
Supervisor. Right? Do you need anything signed? Sometimes they do. If not, bring the agenda later.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's town board meeting, September 25th, 2023. We do have a presentation to lead off tonight's meeting. It is budget time. And as with every other budget, it was certainly been busy so far in preparation for what we're going to be embarking on here the next few weeks in terms of workshops. But I do tonight have our tentative budget for 2024. We're going to begin workshopping tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We had originally planned on workshopping with our budgets on Wednesday, but we could not coordinate schedules with the board members, and it's imperative, obviously, that we have town board members that can attend the budget process. So we had to step it up a day, and it's going to be tomorrow rather than Wednesday. So I wanted to mention that. As I said, it's been hectic and crazy leading up to this point for a number of reasons, a lot of which is scheduling. It's a busy time of year, not just with budget, but other town business as well. Our comptroller, who is not here this evening, is out sick. So it's a tough break for us not to have our comptroller here for the releasing the tentative budget. But what we have in terms of the 2024 budget is it's tentative. It's just a summary of what we'll be working on in the next few weeks. So with that being said, we'll get right into it. So this is a presentation of the town of Malta, our residents, the budget of 2024, summarizes the significant information in this proposed budget thus far. First item are the total appropriations by fund, including transfers to reserves. Tentative, again, for 2024 is $12,671,934. That is a very slight increase from last year, again, trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can in this budget. Last year was $12,569,425, so it is just a very slight increase. So it is a fiscally conservative budget that funds the core town responsibilities for road maintenance, fire protection, law enforcement, ambulance services, local courts, planning, code enforcement, while staying below the 2% tax cap and maintaining the town free of general townwide property taxes, which we all do love. To balance the budget, the town will use $1,039,000 of its fund balance and designated reserves. Tax and user rates by fund. The general, there will be no general town tax again. Highway, there will be no highway tax for the 23rd consecutive year. Fire, the town's fire protection tax rate will decrease to 0.7298 cents per thousand, resulting in a tax levy of $2,195,060. EMS, town's emergency medical services tax levy funds the voter-approved ambulance district of $470,000. Emergency medical services tax rate is 0.1509 cents per thousand. Library, town's library tax levy funds the voter-approved proposition of $339,000 for the library. Library tax rate is 0.1085 cents per thousand. Under sewer, the town has one sewer district, and the users of the district are responsible for the operation and the maintenance cost of this district. Sewer user charges will be for 2024 remain the same at $180 per equivalent dwelling unit, or EDU. Appropriations and revenues, personnel, a COLA, cost of living, a 5% increase, plus applicable step raises has been applied to all salaries of town non-union employees. Union employees received a $1.50 an hour contract increase. Highway, the town's approximately 74 lane miles of highway need regular repairs and improvements. An appropriation of $840,000 for road improvements has been budgeted, and an additional $400,000 for drainage improvements in the Luther Forest area. An appropriation of $435,000 has been provided to fund the purchase of highway equipment, with additional funding of $574,000 to fund the highway equipment reserve. Town has also appropriated $150,000 for stormwater drainage projects in the vicinity of Glen Eagles residential development and other areas of town. Under parks, continued improvements to the town's parks and pedestrian/bicycle trail improvements are important quality of life for us. Therefore, The budget provides $260,000 in the general outside village fund to finance maintenance and operation of the town parkland. Seniors. This proposed budget funds the following programs for the town's seniors. CareLinks, $9,500. Malta Senior Citizens Incorporated, $13,500. Office for the Aging, Transportation, and Nutrition, $9,800. And Malta Community Center program discounts, $17,000. Revenues. Sales tax receipts continue to remain the largest revenue component in town's budget. 2024 tentative budget projects sales tax revenues of $6,300,000 due to the continued economic growth of Saratoga County. Fund balance. The town recognizes 4 competing needs which must be balanced in order to be successful. Town must provide quality services and protection, care, fire, law enforcement, and ambulance to all of our residents. Town must maintain public facilities and infrastructure, roadways. Town must recruit, train, and retain employees that meet our goal of excellent service. The town must maintain fiscal integrity. Summary of the changes in appropriations from the 2023 adopted budget. For law enforcement contractual services, the total, $287,000. Highway equipment total, $435,000. Luther Forest drainage total, $400,000. Maintenance equipment total, $235,000. Snow removal and road improvements total, $560,000. Employee benefit increase or changes, $148,000. Payroll costs, $65,000. Summary of significant appropriations by service type, community center, $486,000. Summer youth programs, $179,000. Parks and recreation, $273,000. Library, $339,000. Building and planning, $746,000. Street repairs and improvements, $1,300,000. Highway machinery and repairs, $725,000. Snow removal, $560,000. Stormwater management, $649,000. Debt service, $335,000. Emergency services, fire, police, and ambulance, $2,958,000. And that is a summary of our budget for 2024. As I said, we will begin the workshop process tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. And because of the schedule change, we're able to have our board members present for that. And again, that's imperative that happen. So with that, and also, by the way, this, after tonight's meeting, this will be filed with the clerk, at which point it will be released to the public tomorrow. So with that, I ask that everyone please stand, salute for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First order of business is to accept the minutes from 9/11/23.
So moved?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried, thank you. Comments from town board or department heads. Just real quickly, I'd like to jump in. I think good news, positive news. Today, I had quite a lengthy meeting with Assemblywoman Carrie Warner and a number of representatives from Verizon, because I'm sure there's a number of you in the room. I know myself, I have a number of people that have reached out to me. We've noticed gaps in our Verizon cell coverage in certain areas of town. It's been going on for a while. It seems to be increasing, not getting better. So that prompted me to reach out to the Assemblywoman, asked her for a meeting, and she was very gracious. We met. She arranged to have Verizon representatives there. We had, I think, 4 in person. There were 3 that were virtual. It was a good, positive meeting. I was accompanied by the supervisor from the town of Wilton, John Lant. He chairs the Public Safety Committee for the county. I'm the vice chair for Public Safety. So both of us, each of us have brought this up at the county level before. It started, I think, actually the first time last year, and it was a cry for some kind of help, some kind of assistance, at least attention to what we see in our towns, and I think we're not alone. A growing concern with the lack of cell coverage in certain areas. Not too long ago, I spoke with a resident. Her concern, especially having young children, is that the inability sometimes to even dial 911, which to me is crazy, and that's exactly what I said to Verizon today. It's unacceptable that today, I mean, you can pick up a cell phone, and it's designed, even if it's not yours, you have the ability to dial 911 on it. You don't have to unlock it. You can dial 911 on it. That's for a reason. That's for, God forbid, if you have the need to dial that number and seek some kind of help, whether it's fire, EMS, or what have you, you can do so without delay. And yet we have people in our very town that can't do that in their homes. And if you don't have your landline anymore, which many of us don't, you're kind of in a pickle. So in any event, that was projected. My feelings were projected during that meeting, as was the supervisors from Wilton, John Lance, concern. So I think that at the very least, it's put us on their radar more than we were. They meaning Verizon. At first, I mean, we'd reached out to Verizon separately, both supervisors, and you'll get whatever response at that time. But it didn't cut right down to the bone and get answers and look for a path forward. Well, that's what we did today, was look for a path forward. That's what we're going to be working on. Verizon's going to continue at the level that we spoke to today. They're going to be reaching out with me with basically their reception circles, I think they call them, or reception areas, whatever they call them. They want to look to see where, in fact, we do have the deficits in the town of Malta. They're looking at ways, whether it be through a macro cell or macro cell set up off of buildings so that you don't have intrusive towers, or it may, in fact, lead to an additional tower or towers. We don't know yet. But at least we are now in the queue, so to speak, with Verizon. They understand that there's 2 main corridor towns that are very concerned with our lack of what I see as really unacceptable coverage through Verizon. So, again, a huge thank you to Kerry Warner for helping us out with this issue and also pressing them with some pretty pointed questions, quite frankly. So I left the meeting with a good feel that we're at least getting closer to some kind of resolution. And obviously, I'll be keeping the residents informed of that as we move forward. But it has been recognized. We are trying to deal with it. So hopefully, good things will happen. I'm sure they will.
Mark, on that topic, when Mohawk Chevrolet was just coming in, I had a telecommunications consultant reach out that suggested that there may be an opportunity to partner with them on using the flagpole that they installed there as essentially a cell tower repeater. So I'll put you in touch with those folks.
That'd be
so
great.
You can
Thank
incorporate
you.
that into the discussion.
I know they did mention that in cases where, especially, I mean, none of us really want to look at towers. Nobody loves them. But no one loves looking out of their window of their house and seeing a pole with transformers on it or wires, but we want electricity. So we've gotten to the point where this is what we as a civilization today have pretty much dictated happen. If you want to have and need that cell service, and let's face it, we all do. We use our phones for everything now, not just phones or calling people rather, but they're computers basically with us, and we use them for so many different things. So this is that cost, I guess, is now we have to upgrade the infrastructure. In this case, it's Verizon, and that's where Kerry Warner really pressed Verizon. That she even said, "Hey, look at you're charging your customers to upgrade from 3G to 5G and so on. What are you doing in return? We need to see some type of realized benefit on the other end. So I think it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. Nothing happens fast. I haven't learned anything at all, it's that nothing happens quick when it involves government. So we're doing our best, though.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Any of the other board members have anything?
Yeah, I got two things. It's my understanding the speed radar signs were installed by the highway crew today, and we will be monitoring them. Roger, thank you much. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the residents and the children on that street also do. Second thing is I see we got a guest in the house from, she's a senior at Boston Spa. Why don't you introduce yourself? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
Yeah, you kind of are putting her on the spot.
yeah, well,
Welcome, Mariah. So B-Spa, what grade?
thank you.
You're a senior? Glad to have you. Go Scotties. This will be as painless as possible tonight, I promise you, Mariah, so. Well, maybe not. It's early yet. You're right, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry.
No predicaments.
Yes, also, thank you, Craig, for bringing up Miller Road. Thank you, Roger, and to your crews especially for putting those signs up and taking care of that. And speaking of signs, what a funny twist with those signs. Yes, Roger.
I just want to tell you, we got the old signs back. One of them is supposed to work, one of them don't. The sign person that sold them to us, was very gracious. He gave us, new demos
Mm-hmm.
that are free to the town. We can use them for, because, he felt bad that they were so long and they lost them.
I think
Some or whatever.
they realize the angst.
That was really highly of the company.
It was, and I think that it's good business on their part. They recognize the angst that, I mean, we wanted those a while ago.
They were delivered Thursday afternoon. We put them up this morning, so.
Perfect.
I understand that whoever was supposed to repair the signs, that individual left, so that led to the whole breakdown in who was fixing it, who wasn't.
The old ones back, said they're probably gonna cost you more to repair them. They're older technology than these. So anyway, we'll see what we can do with these.
Very good.
And I drove through there today. They're very inconspicuous too, so hopefully they'll be, effective, that people it will do their job. Well, I could only get up to about 80. No, I'm,
One of the first speeds reported on 57 miles an hour during
I believe it.
while the highway workers were standing on the side of the road with their bright yellow sweatshirts on.
Who could have predicted that?
Yeah, right.
It's just,
All getting under the radar.
I know.
Roaming around down there this morning. So I don't know if he was headed over that way or not.
Yeah, as I turned off Miller onto East Line, there was a sheriff coming on to Miller from the other direction.
They've been making a very conscious effort and will continue to do that.
Trying to get it up to 88 and get the flux capacitor going.
Not enough room there to get it up to 88.
So I got one more thing.
Sure.
If I could, next week, I'm gonna ask for amendment to 284 to do another road. It won't be any impact on the budget. We're going over the figures now. So there'll be another road that gets done this year.
Great,
It's not on 284.
great.
Thank you, Roger.
Acceptable to that.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyone else? Department heads, members of the board? Nobody. Okay. Comments from town residents? I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Hi, I'm Sharon Buck, 18 Miller Road. I just want to start out with a few notes to say. First, I'm impressed with your year-over-year budget. I know it's difficult to keep things flat.
It is very difficult, thank you.
I appreciate the effort. We appreciate the effort. And secondly, on the signs, we think it's a good first step in building some momentum for enforcement on Miller Road and some deterrent for speed on Miller Road. But as noted, one of the first speeds reported was 57 miles an hour, 40. And that was during the time that the bus is going up and down the street. We've already had 2 incidents on Miller Road this year. In this school year, relative to the bus either having to phone hit an oncoming driver to stop or a car not stopping at Blue Bus. We are persisting in our request for consideration of stop signs on Miller Road. And I think there are a few points of confusion that, Kate and I came here tonight, that we were the selected delegates for tonight, to just clarify a few points. One is, we would like definitive, action from the board regarding the installation of stop signs on the speed corridor that is Miller and Wool Road. And further to clarify the status of the study, I know that we advanced the request through the county to the state DOT and we've not heard back. But I do believe that there is more that we can do within the town's own jurisdiction to advance a safety study there. I'm comfortable using your own words, I know there are multiple types of studies, but I think you know what I mean at this point. So I'm looking for some definitive response from the board on next steps regarding stop signs and definitive response from the board regarding next steps on whether the town itself will engage a traffic study relative to speed.
Now, on that traffic study, are you saying that street only, or are you saying,
So we're considering the Miller Rural Road combo to be the speedway between East Line and
the Speedway?
the highway, speedway. And I think that, approvals for new neighborhoods, the lack of the left turn, all of that is just compounding the issue. And now that we're back in school season, it's, we're back where we were almost a year ago when we started this discussion. So we're considering the Rural Miller Road route to be one.
Probably not going to like this answer, but yes, to get that speed limit down, we've initiated the request to the Department of Transportation, and I've seen the paperwork on that. It's 23rd of March is when that went forward. And we're at the mercy of when they get back to us on that. There's not a tracker per se online of where it is in the process. We're going to be consistent of not doing road studies out of our finances, anywhere up to $10,000 to $15,000 a clip. And it'd be hard to cherry pick of which ones we're going to do and which ones we're not when the Department of Transportation offers free. And again, even if we do the traffic study to get stop signs and whatnot, it's got to be a traffic study, it's still got to make it to that same desk with the same stamp on it. It all depends if the Department of Transportation does the study, or if we do the study, therefore does not, and they may recommend, hey, stop sign, it still needs a stamp from the Department of Transportation. We do not override the Department of Transportation on any kind of traffic devices. Does that make sense? So it's two paths to get there. We pay, they pay, but it's still going to go to that desk, and they could override even if our traffic study, which is biased, I'm sure, recommends a traffic device, stop signs be there, they still have to sign off and approve on it. So,
Something that, and could stand corrected, but it's my understanding that stop signs do not have to be subject to this, that the town has much more jurisdiction on replacement of stop signs. That can be done without.
And I think Councilman Hartzell made some good points in our last discussion
Yeah,
about this. Go ahead, John.
The thing, I'm anxious like you to get a solution. I mean, if it were up to me, I would have gone ahead and had the town do the whole thing. But the request has been made to DOT for the speed analysis. And it strikes me, just based on my own common sense, that, what
The uniform
might be
traffic.
done on the road by way of traffic control devices is going to have some relation to the speed limit on the road. So it just strikes me that the analysis needs to be of both speed and traffic control measures before you put measures in place. And the town's position right now is we're going to wait for DOT to produce the speed evaluation. Now, the other issue that's out there that may or may not work, I don't want you to hold out any hope because it's not clear, is whether we can do anything to widen the shoulders to pick up extra space for pedestrians. I have no idea. That would be, again, our own evaluation of the right-of-way, the expense. It would probably be very expensive to do it. But it does seem like this should go forward on a like comprehensive basis. And that the most efficient way to tackle it is with the information on the speed analysis in hand. That's my own kind of reaction.
The other thing is that you requested a stop sign, right? Are you requesting crosswalks also?
Literally any safety measure would be
Okay.
helpful.
The stop signs, when I was talking to the traffic engineer, said that stop signs are not used to control speed. And he made that very clear. So I don't know where that's going. But he was very adamant about that. Even though it does make sense.
They don't have a direct correlation with speed.
Right,
I understand.
right.
But they would serve as a deterrent along the route. They would further create space for people to safely cross the road at certain points, other than waiting until they're at one end or the other end of the road. So I just, for the record, just to clarify, so it is the board's policy that the stop signs and the speed will be bundled as one, even though the statutory obligation is for the speed rather than the stop sign.
Well, it's kind of policy by default. I mean, the decision's already,
Statutory obligation that you undertake a study to implement the stop signs, right?
well, no, I mean, you gotta have an engineer, an engineer's gonna have to evaluate whether additional traffic control measures are consistent with the AASHTO standards. We can't just randomly do what we want. They have to satisfy engineering requirements.
Verify
And-
the actual obligations.
And John, I want to follow up on that point. The supervisor in planning did make an initial request to engineering, and engineering's recommendation to the board, to planning, was to wait for the traffic study, because they need, otherwise, we're recreating the exact same thing. And the DOT, if their study is different, they may not accept ours. So the expense and the timing of it require, in the town's position, to wait for DOT. So it's not that the town board isn't following up on your requests. They're taking the advice of their engineer, and they're trying to accomplish the process and continuing to follow up. I will point one other thing out, that the town also has to be very careful with how it decides to treat Miller Road and any road within the town of Malta. If the town decides, which it hasn't done now, that it wants to set the speed limit for DOT based upon its own study, which would need to go to DOT. DOT may acquiesce to it. However, if they do, it's DOT's position that the town has now taken that obligation with respect to all requests within the town of Malta. That would be an extremely, extremely expensive burden for the town of Malta. So I just want the board and the public to be aware of that, unfortunately, for the town, they, despite wanting to move on the Miller Road proposals, they want to get it right, they want to follow the proper procedure, they want to follow the advice of their engineer, and they want to make sure that they're not taking on any large expenses that were unanticipated. So I hope that summarizes for you the path going forward and why we are where we are at this point.
If I were you, I would keep showing up every town board meeting and trying to make a point. I mean, you just got to do that. And I think the enforcement aspect of it is equally, if not more, important than what you might do with signs and speed limits. You know, we got to get more, you know, law enforcement out there.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
Kate Coburn, Miller Road. I think we're just confused, honestly, and thank you for that. It just, you know, just for clarity, the impetus behind why we started showing up is because on December 20th, the planning board voted for the new development that's going directly behind my house to have a gate in between that new development and Avondale. And that's when, in January, my husband and I went door to door to educate all of our neighbors, and we showed up in February. So now it's been since February, and it seems every time we're here, there's a different story. And I understand that, you know, we've learned a lot and we've spoken with engineers, but, you know, a few months ago we talked about, I reached out to Assemblywoman Warner's office, and that's when she told us that a few years ago they had passed a law giving the towns the ability to do this study. Do we honestly think that the state is going to do a study when the state just passed a law saying the towns can do the study?
They've indicated they are doing the study.
There.
They have indicated.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you said you hadn't heard.
Yes, in fact.
Well, we
I was-
haven't heard, I'm sorry.
I was going to mention it when Ms. Buck was up talking, but she sat down too quickly. I don't think you were at the meeting when I mentioned the fact, I have reached out to the Commissioner of Public Works for the county, Chad Cook, and August 29th is this email, and I was basically asking, have you heard anything? Don't hurry, you know, not that we're in a hurry, but we are, and tongue in cheek. And he said, yeah, I get basically the request a lot. And he says, I've received a number of them just this year alone. And he says, I can tell you just from experience, basically right here, hi, Mark, we send them along to DOT as soon as we receive them. Responsive from DOT can take a year or longer. Unfortunately, it is totally out of our control. I've requested updates in the past, and in response I always get is they have a significant backlog of this request to process, so the response may take longer. Subsequent to this, I had the opportunity to meet or talk with Chad Cook, the commissioner, just a few weeks ago, and asked him if there were any additional updates since this email, and he said, unfortunately, no. But he said, I'm also not surprised that we haven't received any updates yet. He goes, they really are backlogged with these requests. And he said, this is just the nature of the beast. And talking with, well, my secretary especially, she's dealt with these for 18 years. This is typical. This is what happens. This is nothing, as I said earlier, nothing moves quickly in government. And this is just something we have to try as hard as it is to be patient with this process. As Councilman Ricky pointed out, it's difficult. I hope you can understand, for us up here, if we, the board, were to deviate from what we have done in the past, and that is to let DOT go through, do their study, which costs the town nothing, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, we choose for Miller Road folks, well, we're going to now go outside of that, and we're going to pay money for an engineering study, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. I said, I think at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, whenever it was, you know, folks on Old Post Road, Silver Beach Road, Malta Avenue Extension, I can name you an endless list of roads where people have complained about speeding, and to the point where they don't even complain anymore, because it's just, they're tired of complaining. And they've asked for things. And I mean, I can tell you Silver Beach Road alone, I think the speed limit's 40. Nobody does 40. Nobody.
And while the law allows us to change speed limits in the town, we still have to do the traffic study to show that it's justified. And that can either be done by the state or it can be done by the town.
Submittal is misleading the actual article.
It is very
It's-
misleading.
You can set your own speed limit. Man, I read the first
It's
paragraph.
not a terribly effective.
It was a field.
We could do a traffic study.
Quite honestly.
We could do a traffic study. Yeah.
No, I don't mean for residents.
We could do the traffic study. We could pay for the traffic study and it's still gonna go
None of
different.
those people from those roads are here, right? We've been here for 7 months now.
And I appreciate that you are here. I really do.
Telling us to keep coming. We have young kids You know, I have to get my father-in-law to bring my daughter to vocal lessons tonight so that I could come here. What am I gonna do in the winter when he's in Florida? I'm not joking, like,
No, we all take you completely serious. Trust me, it's not a matter of not believing you folks. Trust me, from the bottom of my heart, I really feel for you. However, I'm tasked, the board is tasked with looking out for the entire town.
Right.
And it's not just the safety alone, but it's the fiscal responsibility. You know, I talked at length with our town engineer about this right here, and he summed it up pretty quickly, so to speak, and that a study, like any study, is only good if you actually go by to the letter of what the study suggests. And he said, although it's not the end-all or a decider in this matter, the cost could be, quite frankly, quite high to go through and do everything that a study suggests. Again, my secretary, she's told me when I first came in office, the hundreds of thousands of dollars this town has spent on studies that sit on a bookshelf. I don't want to do that. If other people have done that, that's well and good. I'm sure they had best intentions. As we said earlier, it's budget time. You can see our belts are fairly tight, and that's good for the town. It's good for the residents. So we can't just, when someone comes in, and again, I don't mean to downplay your road, I don't, or your residents, but we can't just agree to a squeaky wheel in this case of, okay, I got you. We're going to do an engineering study. We're going to do that.
a few months ago. You said it.
I said what?
You said, yes, we'll vote on that at the next meeting. And then the next meeting came and went for months. You said-
That was to authorize the request. to
Yes,
DOT
that
for
was the
study.
request, as I understood it. We didn't authorize engineering.
No, you said.
We agreed we were going to request a quote from our engineer for a
Right.
study. But
And that was part of that conversation with the engineer. And that was like, look, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve. We want the road to be safe. We don't want a knee jerk. We don't want to just throw a Band-Aid. We want it to be safe.
And as Mark said earlier, the engineer came back and said, you already have a request into DOT, it's belt and suspenders.
the one piece of information that's new is that I wasn't aware that if we undertake our own speed analysis for this road, this is the first I've heard this, DOT is basically saying you're on your own from here on forward. And that represents a significant
That's a big problem.
issue for the town. If I were you, I would keep showing up. When that speed, evaluation is in from DOT, I'd be right back here pressing the town to proceed with further engineering analysis to look at whether there's road widening, whether there's additional traffic safety control devices. But for the time being, it does seem to make sense to, wait and see what this looks like so that the issue can be looked at on a kind of a holistic basis.
I certainly don't want you folks to think that we're not taking you seriously or we're in some way trying to do a dance or deceive or anything of that nature. We truly want all of our roads to be safe in this town, not just Miller Road, but all of them. So we are doing our best up here to achieve that, while again, as I said, we're keeping the entire town in mind when we're doing that. We have to be very careful with literally every dollar that we spend. I'm sure you can appreciate that. We don't have a town tax. We don't have a highway tax. We have to do this. This is nothing personal. Yes, there's a lot of pressure to do this right now. I mean, it's an election year. I don't act upon elections. I'm not going to. I could tell you, we'll do whatever you want to do to get your votes, and I will not do that. I would be irresponsible if I did that. If this cost me an election, so be it. This is what I'm tasked to do right now, is look out for the benefit of all residents in the town. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what the board is supporting me in doing.
Just to be clear, we are not correlating what we're doing here with an election.
Well, there's been talk. That's the only reason I brought it up. There's been a lot of pressure to do this, to go through and pull the trigger.
Health and safety are bigger than an election cycle, and I would like to separate the two because they do not correlate.
That's exactly what I just said.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I just said.
Yes.
That's exactly what I just said. I wanted to reiterate that despite that pressure, my feelings on this particular matter have not changed and they won't change.
Well, and you mentioned in the budget presentation, you said that our town parks and bike paths are an important part of the community.
Yes, they are.
I live 1 mile from that bike path,
Mm-hmm.
and I attempted to bring my kids on it the other day, and we all nearly died. So I can't access the important bike paths because our road is so dangerous. My son rides his bike to school. The kids cross Miller Road at Ivy and Glen Eagles, where we would like a stop sign. We have to stand at the top of that hill and take our own lives in risk, put our own lives at risk so that we can stop the cars that are flying up that hill so they don't hit the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we're pushing this right now, not because it has anything to do
Keep
with
pushing,
election,
you know.
because we want our children to live.
Right.
Yeah,
Keep pushing.
I could appreciate that. I had 2 young children at one time, and I wouldn't let them. We don't have a sidewalk within miles of where we live in Malta. Can I finish, please?
Absolutely.
And what we used to do routinely, and yeah, it was a pain in the neck, but I loaded all of our bikes in the back of my truck. We drove to Shenandoah, unloaded them, and went on the path. That's what we did. I'm not saying that because that's what you should do, but I'm saying, I get it, I understand it. You don't want your kids to be in danger. No good parent would want that to happen. But at the same time, we also have our own responsibilities, and there's ways that we can do things other than just, in this case, stop signs or speed studies or what have you, engineering studies. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. It's
I've been advised to continue showing up. So I'm
and you are, and I really do. I commend you and all the residents that show up. Thank you.
Let's just hope DOT, I hate the day, if they come back with a negative response saying, that possibility exists.
Possibility.
That they could say, nope, this is great, this is good for you, and I hope that doesn't happen.
And thank you. I remembered the last thought that I had that, again, I started with this, I'm gonna close with this. This is a problem now,
Mm-hmm.
but what really drove us to start coming here is this new development that is coming in. There's going to be a barrier that has been proposed. I don't know if it's been approved by the board yet or not. It's been approved by the planning board on December 20th, 2022, a barrier preventing those cars from going through Avondale. Avondale, that is 30 miles an hour, that has sidewalks, that has the structure to take on that additional traffic that would then go down Raleigh, that has a sidewalk. That is also 40 miles an hour that people go down too fast, but there is a sidewalk there that is well off, it's the ice cream trail, it even has a nice name, well off the side of the road. But instead, they estimated, I read all the studies, right? There's 120 houses times 2 cars, that's 240 cars. They estimate 60% are gonna come south. If you are conservative and think that 50% will come down our road, I mean, how many cars? I have the math, I just put my papers down. So to answer your question earlier, the study, we would also like East Line included in that study. Because that light is the problem. That light and traffic circles are why people are speeding down Miller, so East Line has to be included in that study.
And the new developments that are going on the west side of Eastland, that's
I
not even,
understand. They're coming down our road now. I'm concerned about the
Yes.
70 cars. I think that's
So-
the map that I did. The additional 70 cars in the morning and 70 cars at night that are flying down our road. That's why we're here. So if you haven't approved that yet, I beg and whatever I can do to please not approve.
That's
that,
done.
It's
done.
It's approved.
And that's through
And
the,
as a resident whose property abuts, I was never notified of when that was happening, so.
and that was through the planning board, not through this board.
It was approved through the planning board, but I thought it then had to come here to be approved.
no.
No.
It's a condition of their approval that they do that.
So I also wasn't notified of when that was happening, but.
Any other residents? Yes, sir. Could you please go to
come
the
to the
podium,
mic.
sir? That's primarily for the folks that are watching from home. They can hear you. They can't hear you from back there.
Joe Palmer, live at 8 Essex Street,
And I don't think that microphone is even on.
across from the Speedway,
Jill?
which
I don't think, Janet, that microphone is not on.
Is on.
I apologize, and I just, they shut it off before
right.
they sat down, but
yeah, I didn't think it was on. honestly.
it sounded like the microphones were.
We live right across from the Speedway, and this past weekend, they were racing until almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I do know that they have an exemption to the noise ordinance, but do they have carte blanche to race as long as they want?
I don't think it's fair to say they have carte blanche, and based on the emails that I got today, honestly, I didn't hear it where I live, but that's neither here nor there.
You're welcome to come over to my house.
But that's not the case every night. It depends on which way the wind current or whatever. There's nights I don't even hear it. But that's besides the point. No, there's no carte blanche. I will speak with the raceway about this. They're typically very, very good. They really are. They reach out to the town, let us know when they're going to be doing things off their normal schedule of Friday nights. We work actually well with them. They inform us of things. Nothing's a secret. And typically, they are done by 11 o'clock.
I know.
But I heard that that was not the case this time, so I will speak with them about this.
When might we have an answer about something like that? I mean, you can speak to them, but what kind of a resolution
Well,
would you be looking for?
If you're asking if we can shut them down,
No,
the
that's
answer to
not
that
what
is
I'm
no.
I'm asking that they not race past a certain time.
The issue that happened Friday and Saturday is it's been a rainy summer. They were not able to race on some Friday evenings, and they extended one of those anyways into Friday evenings thing. It did extend it. The other thing is, when they extended it, there was more interest in it, and racers and public traveled from Canada all down south, and you know, I'm totally sensitive to what you're saying, but they just, only other option was to say, it's 11 o'clock, we're stopping, go home.
That's a great option.
Steve, can you weigh in?
Fantastic option.
Excuse me, folks, and let our town attorney weigh in on this, because we're getting into legal matters, I think, so I want to make sure that no one misspeaks.
Well,
I'm just telling you why it happened.
Steve?
Mark, I can't really answer the legal question other than to say that, this is the first time hearing of it, other than a conversation with Mark this afternoon about a number of complaints. So I could certainly review, our ordinance and policy and make a recommendation to the board of where they stand. But I guess the only silver lining that you have is that I think that's
over.
the last race of the season.
But
So,
they've set a precedent now. I mean, we've been here 7 years. It's never happened before. Now they've set a precedent. You can expect it again.
Well,
So I
so
just
to
wanna
try
make
to,
sure that it
to try to answer your question a little bit, because we've been through this a couple times over the last 8 years, is my understanding and my read of it is, no, we do not have the ability to limit their operating hours.
Well, the town has.
Hang on, let me finish.
hang
Let
on,
me
no.
finish. Let me finish.
We
Let me
do.
finish. We,
the code.
my understanding of our prior discussions on this is we are not able to, based on prior discussions that we have had with the former town attorney. That may not be an accurate understanding of it, but I know Mark has also offered to talk to Lyle and try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I don't think, because I've been involved in these discussions previously, that there is a easy, clean way for the town to limit their operating hours, given the fact that they have been in operation for long before we had codes and planning and zoning, but
So then they
I
do have
could be
carte
wrong.
blanche. Don't they?
But as you heard, our town attorney said he's gonna research it, and Mark's gonna talk to Lyle, and, hopefully we'll have more in our next meeting.
Usually Lyle, I mean, every time we've asked him to do something, the Speedway has complied. He really truthfully does try to work with the town. He understands that we get a number of complaints and calls when things go beyond 11 o'clock. He understands that. So they really try not to. Usually if they go beyond 11, there's something going on that even Lyle can't even go out and say, hey, we got to stop this right now for whatever reason. Obviously, he can do that, but should he do that in the position he's in, that's probably, the answer is no to that. But with all that being said, I will speak with him and once again, remind him that we really would like things quiet beyond, that 11 o'clock hour. Just cool
Okay,
it.
one last question. This ordinance, this noise ordinance that the town has, that the Speedway has an exemption to, looked like it was last looked at and revisited back in 2012. Can it be looked at again and revised?
Well, part of the challenge that we have with the noise ordinance is typically complaints we get, whether it's loud music at one of the establishments because they have an outside band, those things generally happen beyond 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We have no staff that's on duty, no code enforcement beyond those hours, where they would actually have to take decibel readings to say, hey, look, you've exceeded what's allowed. And as far as I know, there's nothing in place that says, okay, every such and such a week during this month, we will have code enforcement change their hours, or at least one of them for this time period. That's something maybe we can consider or will consider in the future. I don't know. That's dependent upon what the board in general wants to do as a majority. But we've had discussions about this typically summertime, you can imagine, and it's when there's bands, because some of them are very loud. And we've had these complaints, but each time it's been the same answer, unfortunately. That is, unless we have code enforcement right there reading and seeing what the decibels are, there's nothing for us to enforce, because it's just your word against the band or the establishment's word that, no, we were quiet, it wasn't that loud. So, because we have to be specific and we have to be precise. They have to record for so many seconds that this is what the decibel reading was. So that's something we'll have to consider or could consider moving forward. But again, that's dependent on people other than just myself. That's the board in general.
So basically, all you can do right now is talk to the owner of the Speedway and say, please don't do this again.
And as our town attorney said, he's going to go back and research and see what, if anything can be done, if there's a code change that is feasible, if there is a path there, and both the diplomatic and the legislative route basically is what you've heard here.
Well, maybe you can, appeal to this guy's sense of being a good neighbor. You got the home of the Good Shepherd right there. You've got some elderly people not in good health listening to this stuff at 1:30 in the morning.
And
To the point where you could,
I take the supervisor at his word that he's going to do that. So
Excuse me?
I take the supervisor at his word that he's going to have that conversation.
I will impress that upon him. I promise you that. And it won't be, this is not lip service. I actually will talk with him, and I've been able to talk to him in the past. I have no reason to doubt that I can still do so and get a response that's acceptable to us and to the residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There she goes. One second. We got someone else walking up.
So, with regard to the budget workshop you're having tomorrow.
Cynthia Young.
So Cynthia Young,
Thank you.
Colomer Drive. Probably won't come as any surprise to any of you that I, of course, plan to be here tomorrow morning at 8.
Bringing bagels?
I'll bring bagels if you want.
She told me she was going to, with cream cheese, too.
My question is, you're saying that at that time, the copy of the tentative budget will not be available to the public?
I'll defer to legal.
Yeah,
Well, you filed it now, Jen, you'll be able to get that up, the budget online?
any chance you can get it on tonight?
She has the summary.
But you don't have the actual budget?
The town board has,
Tentative.
none of us have seen the tentative budget
Well,
yet
then-
to go through.
And
Okay,
you gotta
so-
file it with the clerk and then you can open that meeting and present the budget, the tentative budget, but you can't discuss it until it's been filed with the clerk and
So what are you going to discuss about tomorrow if nobody will have a copy of the tentative budget yet?
Kind of a breakdown of this summary of what I read off tonight to see if there's any major discrepancies that people may have up at the board.
So Cynthia, the process has always been, and you
Yeah.
were a board member, so I think you're aware
Yeah,
of what the
yeah,
process
right.
has always been. The tentative budget is merely that, a tentative budget. And in the interest of transparency, this board and the considerations of all the board members has set up multiple workshops to kick off the season for our budget. So a tentative budget is going to be reviewed. If the town board members want changes, there can be even written request changes by administrative department heads. Then that will come back to the town board and get approved as a preliminary budget. And then that preliminary budget will be subject to a public hearing. So this is merely the starting off process. Mark scheduled this presentation to let the public know that we're starting that process, that the actual budget, the tentative budget will be filed with the clerk, and then the town board intends to begin its process of reviewing that.
Not
I
to speak
understand
for
that,
Cynthia, but I
but-
think what she loves binders.
Yeah,
And that's
I
where
did
she's
like,
going.
I did
She
like
wants
my
to-
No
budget.
one,
No.
no one has binders yet.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is in the past, when we had the first budget meeting, you all and I, and even as a member of the public, when I've participated, have had a copy of that tentative budget. It seems like you don't really have anything to work with tomorrow other than the executive summary, which
Well, I hope.
doesn't really have a whole lot of
as-
information.
As Steve pointed out, as a former board member, I'm sure that you can understand the way Kevin King, our former comptroller, worked. Kevin King's not here. We have a brand-new
I know, I
comptroller.
understand.
I would hope that you would show a little bit of understanding that it's not going to be exactly like Kevin King ran it.
Hey, Mark,
I do understand that.
if I can interrupt,
was
please.
also out sick.
Guys, listen, there'll be a process to be filed. If the budget isn't filed, there'll be no reason and the meeting can be canceled. But Mark has summarized what the budget is. It'll be filed with the clerk, and then the board will consider it at that time.
Okay, so then let me just ask this one additional question. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock when you meet, will the board members have a copy of the tentative budget? Or will you only be discussing the executive summary?
I can say if they don't have the summary, they won't be discussing the summary. That's all I can tell you.
Or if they don't have a copy?
If they don't have the budget, they
budget,
won't be
they-
discussing the budget.
And that kind of, I guess I'll wait and see what the point of the meeting is,
we-
because that,
We have a
anybody
date
can
on
read.
when the more detailed copy might be ready, or do we not know yet? Would
Julia
be
went
now?
home, our comptroller went home sick today, as I pointed out earlier.
Yeah,
She was
understood.
not here for the
Understood.
day. She went home early. So this has been a series of things that are not always cast in stone every year. There's nothing hidden in this agenda, or this budget rather. Nothing's going on here. There's nothing missing.
I didn't,
But we're
didn't accuse you
trying
of that,
to
of
go
anything.
forward
Right.
as best we can with a new comptroller and
Who's sick.
hopefully, who is homesick.
Who went home sick?
Okay, all right, fine, I understand that. So then let me ask you this. Is the summary going to be available before tomorrow's meeting? Is it on the website tonight? Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand all that. I understand that she went
Cynthia,
home
you can
sick,
come
but
and
she's
take
new.
mine. Here you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can have mine too.
Someone find a binder.
There's actually a
for her.
copy right over on the table if you want it.
Okay. All right, well, then we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow morning.
So we're going to talk about
We're
the
looking
budget.
Like any
forward to
board
meeting with
meeting,
you.
it's subject to the board. If the board chooses not to have the meeting, they can choose not to have the meeting. They're starting the process. They're going to provide the summary, which Mark went over, in an open meeting to be as transparent as possible, to say this is what's coming forward. And the board members graciously have set aside many hours to consider the tentative budget and to do that openly in public meetings, and that process will continue. I can assure you that every step will be made for the public and for the board and for everyone to have a say in the budget process in the town of Malta.
Well, like I say, we'll see what happens with the discussion tomorrow. And I also want to add that I do appreciate the 8 o'clock hour instead of the 7 o'clock hours that have been
Oh, we
before,
just
so-
changed it to 7:30.
We're
Yeah.
looking forward to,
I'm
Seriously?
sorry, no,
Oh,
it's 6:30. I
Oh,
misspoke. It's
6:30?
6:30
All
it's
right.
starting now, so.
All right, I'll be there, 6:30. I'll be sitting
right.
outside.
Save us a chair, will you?
All right. Oh, yeah, sure. All right, thanks.
don't forget the bagels and coffee.
Cream cheese, we'll have the coffee.
Cream cheese.
We'll have coffee. All right, who else would like to get up and talk?
I wouldn't like to, I just feel like I need to. Says, first of all, in your rules, I will allow others to speak without interruption or side conversations. I have hyperactive attention deficit disorder. And when other people are talking, that's why I come all the way up here, I can't really focus and listen to what's going on.
Understood.
The second thing is that function that you were discussing for the raceway was actually for children. The people say they're here for children. Well, that was for autism awareness. For 2 days, I've been in this area 24 years. I've lived in that stinking trailer, and that hasn't happened before. You had 70 cars parked up and down Route 9, big whoop. I mean, it doesn't happen like that and you know what I mean? How much did you hear him for the rest of the year? You didn't, because I made it rain every day.
You know,
And it did get a lot of rain this summer, did you not?
Yes, thanks for that. If that was you,
I'm just saying, I mean, I want to sit back here, and I want to hear.
and I certainly appreciate that. Thank you, Cynthia.
Everybody's confusing me.
Because Julia's ill, I don't know if you received this, giving you my latest.
I did
letter.
not. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't, because I sent her a letter and then so I resent it. So. I'll go back to my microphone.
Say who you are. Yes.
Oh, I know. Julia did give me, fair warning to provide you with that, and so I did, but there was a typo on the first sentence, so that's what you received, was just a letter with the typo corrected on that. My husband was telling me yesterday that administration of a group of 92, which I started with 8 years ago, and administration for a group of 414 is different. So I put 7 more new members in from the date of that letter on the 20th, and 4 of those are multi-residents. So just wanted to tell you, we're still growing, and a lot of that is the fact that the town is so supportive of us, and the multi-community center is so supportive, giving us rooms when we need them. I appreciate that. And there was an adjustment on the budget because we will be looking at renting space for July and August. So that's it. We have 56 seniors going to see a Patsy Cline tribute on Thursday, and we're going to be eating at a country club. How exciting is that?
Ooh,
So thank you again for your support. Kathy Eitzman, Malta Seniors.
thank you, Kathy. Where's Patsy Cline going to be?
Well, she's gone, but.
I know
Same
that.
place she's been for the last 20 years.
You got to get in the right mindset. She's going to be there, so
Haven't been to this site before, so it's new to us.
great. Let me know how that is, okay? Anyone else from the public? Okay, we will move along then. And for possible action on 10-2, our next meeting, we'll open a public hearing for the zoning district neighborhood 3 C2/C9. Budget workshop for not-for-profits. So we'll hear what they have to say. For town board discussion, establish a capital project for East Line and Route 67 roundabout. That is something that right now it's currently in engineering phase. So we hope to actually move forward with that to rid the standing parking lot, the long, thin parking lot that we get on Route 67. It's terrible trying to travel through there. Anyone that's done it, I'm sure you know. So anyway, we're going to establish that capital project to address that. The town of Malta has taken lead on that. We're going to close capital project for the pickleball courts repair, and they're getting a ton of use, as we knew that they were going to. Once again, Kristen, thank you, and for maintenance staff for spearheading that, and for lining up the crews that actually did the work, and heard nothing but positive. And actually, a number of supervisors have reached out to me and asked who we used and if we recommended them. So we'll get together and forward that information if you don't mind. close out the capital project in the Luther Forest Athletic Fields Improvement Project. And we have the JCAP for the courts, grant application approval. And from what I gather, the courts are looking to utilize grant funding to transcribe a lot of their records. So that's something that's very needed. It's going to save a lot of storage space. One other thing I'd like to add for discussion for our next meeting on 10/2. As everyone, I'm sure most everyone, if not everybody knows, we do own the former Mangino restaurant. We plan on transforming that into a park in the future. Don't know when that's going to happen, but we want to continue to move forward in that process. And we're right now, and actually since we've closed on a property, which was only a few months ago, really, we're looking at the preliminary things that have to be addressed. And we've utilized town equipment and our own manpower, which has been a few of us. And we've cleaned up the site tremendously to where we can mow it and maintain it. It looks a lot better now than it did when we first bought it. But now with the buildings that we have on site, the former restaurant, a few of the outbuildings that some of them we hope that we could save. They've been inspected, they've been looked at. The restaurant itself is deemed just unsafe, so that's going to be coming down. And so we're going to be discussing being able to reach out and address the demolition or the raising of that structure through probably an emergency contract, because we really don't want that structure there through the winter. So it's really imperative for folks and their safety that we get rid of that and clean that site up even more, along with some of the outbuildings that are actually going to go, because they just can't be used. And happy to report that another thing I'd like to discuss is I've been in contact with both our fire chiefs in town, Malta Ridge and Round Lake. Malta Ridge basically taking lead on this, and that is typically the fire departments in town, if they have a structure that they know is going to be torn down, they'll ask the owner if they can commence training on that site and utilize it for as close to real life conditions as possible. So we would like to entertain that for our fire companies to let them train and basically increase their skill level. And the best way to do that is be able to have structures in hand and not just mock-ups. So I've been working with, again, both fire chiefs with that. And they're not going to burn the structure. A lot of people, when they hear that fire companies are going to have it, they think, well, they're going to burn the thing down. No, they're not going to burn it. They're going to do mainly interior operations, search and rescue, with blacked out masks and such to simulate that they're actually in a structure that they have no idea where they are when they're inside, and that is real life. So anyway, I'm going to be very excited to see them be able to give some form of usage to this, what is now a useless building, to our fire companies and benefit them. So I'll be discussing that on 10/2, and look forward to the board support on that as we move forward. And that's where we are to date on that. Any other comments from any town residents about anything at all? Any
Tomorrow
board
morning,
members?
we're going to talk about the budget, right?
Tomorrow morning,
Nothing else?
nothing else,
Okay, I thought so. Okay, I just want to make sure.
nothing else.
Regardless what's in front of us or
Might talk
not,
about the weather
or,
or a football game or
okay.
something like that. but
regardless what's in
I
front
can't
of us.
promise it'll be just that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you
Move
very
we
much.
adjourn?
And my apologies if you have explained this in previous meetings. The Z2, C9 zoning districts, neighborhood 3. So I went and looked at the maps. And C2 looks like it's around Route 9 somewhere, is that correct? And then C9, it says Gap, New, like where's C9?
Where is he?
So
Jamie, can you-
C2 and C9 those are the zoning designations. Neighborhood 3 is the geographical location here. There may be C2 and C9 in various areas of town. But in this case, neighborhood 3 is the southern end of Route 9 near the Round Lake Road bypass.
Right near the bypass where the old Starting Gate Motel is.
Okay. Where My Way Cafe used to be?
No, that's on the other
Yeah,
side.
sort of kitty corner.
It's in that area, the
In
general
that-
area, but it's actually to the
one of
north
those-
and west of
Northwest,
My Way
yeah.
Cafe,
Okay.
on the opposite intersection, if you will, or other side of the
The
intersection,
entrance to the bypass.
or circle.
It's where those white cottages are.
Okay, thank you. It's Patricia McKay.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Anyone else? Did you have a second or no? I'll second.
Oh, yeah, I have a second.
I'll second.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, folks.